I'm okay, you guys. I feel good. I have my health. And most importantly, I have my faith in my family. That's the most important thing right now. They say that the size of your character shows up by how you react to circumstances. And when I ask myself and I'm reflecting on this, was I mad at this whole thing? For sure. Was this abrupt? In my opinion, yeah. Was the requirement to pick up and move my entire family to Maryland in 2 weeks frustrating? Absolutely. But as I said in my open to work post, I can only control two things. That is my action and that is my attitude. And I have so many thoughts on this, right? But I've shared that you shouldn't badmouth a company, and I am not going to do that here. I still 100% respect and acknowledge the people that I used to work with, and I acknowledge that this was probably just as hard to communicate the change than it was for me to receive it. And if you're out there watching this in the same situation, please know I am literally right there with you. And I will share my journey in time for sure. For now, I wanted to jump on here live and let you know a couple of things. First, I'm going to get to every one of your comments, if there are any comments in this live stream after I finish this live. The support that you guys have given me since my post this week has honestly meant more than you know. And I appreciate every single one of you. But for all the messages, for all the leads, everything, who knows what will happen with this momentum, and I'm going to ride it as best as I can and take every lead. And if you refer someone to me, I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to respect that and do my best to try to follow up with that lead and not be lazy about it. I don't know what else to say about that. But something else has happened over the last couple of weeks. For the first time in a long time, I'm not just helping people navigate the job market. I'm obviously navigating it myself. And it's interesting because when something like this happens, all of the questions I've answered for candidates over the last 17 years suddenly become questions I have to answer for myself. And one of those questions I get is, it's a question that I get all the time. Tony, am I job hopping? Or maybe it's, how long should I stay before I actually leave? Or is changing companies every couple of years going to hurt me? And my answer is almost always the same. Depends. I know that's probably not the answer that you wanted, but I want you to think about it for a second. I have seen clear professionals stay at the same company for 10 years and quietly hurt their career. I've also seen people move every couple of years and hurt their career doing that too. So which one's right? That's what I want to help you figure out today, because I don't think the real question is job hopping bad per se? I think the better question is, how do I know if I'm making the right career move? And after 17 years of recruiting in the cleared space, I've noticed that there are a few patterns that almost always separate the strategic career moves from the emotional ones. So if you've ever wondered, should I stay? Should I go? Should I leave? Am I moving too often? Or am I staying too long? I'm making this episode here for you. Welcome back to Beyond the Badge. So let's start with the obvious question. How do you know if you've stayed somewhere for too long? Because I don't think that there's a magic number. It's not 3 years, it's not 5 years, and it's definitely not 10 years. I've worked with candidates who spent 15 years at one company and built incredible careers, and I've also worked with candidates who stayed 5 years and probably should have left after 3. So what was the difference? It wasn't the number of years, it was whether they were still growing. Think about it for a second, okay? If you're learning, taking on more responsibility, working with new technologies, getting promoted, increasing your impact, why would I tell you to leave? Of course I wouldn't, right? Now, let's flip that around. What if you've been doing the exact same work on the exact same program with the exact same responsibilities for the last 5 years? No new skills, no new additional responsibility, no meaningful increase in compensation. Can I ask you something? In that scenario, who's growing? Because it might not be you, it might be the company. And that's where I think people confuse loyalty with growth, okay? They're not the same thing. I love loyalty. As a recruiter, I would much rather talk to someone who stayed because they believed in the mission than someone who's chasing a new job every 8 months. But loyalty shouldn't come at the expense of your career. Now, here's where I think this whole topic gets really, really interesting. Okay, so I call this the loyalty tax. Okay, and here's what I mean by this. Okay, let's say that you accepted a role making $120,000 a year. Every year you get a 3% raise. That tends to feel good for most people that get a raise like that, right? And don't get me wrong, a raise is better than no raise. 3% is better than nothing, okay? But while your salary is slowly climbing, the market isn't standing still. Demand changes, technology changes, programs change, companies are competing for talent, the market keeps moving, even if you don't, okay? So a few years go by, a recruiter reaches out to you about a similar role, you have the conversation, and then you find out that they're paying new hires $20,000 more than you're making today. You requires the same clearance, it has similar responsibilities, and maybe even less experience. So how does that happen? Because they're hiring at today's market rate. You're still getting paid based on the market from when you accepted the job, okay? A couple of years ago. That's salary compression, in my opinion, and it's something that I see all the time. Now, before you hear me say all of this and think, okay, Tony says that I should leave my company. Again, that's not what I'm trying to say here. Remember, we're answering a different question here today. How do you know if you're staying too long? I think it comes down to three things. Are you still growing? Are you still being challenged? And is your compensation keeping up pace with the value that you're bringing? If the answer is yes, you might be exactly where you should be. If the answer is no, maybe it's time to start asking some questions. Not because you have one foot out the door, because your career deserves the same attention that you'd give any other long-term investment. And I think that's healthier. That's a healthier way to think about it. Okay, so let's say that you've answered those three questions, right? You're not really growing anymore. The work has become predictable. Your compensation isn't keeping up pace with the market. Now what? Do you just start applying to every job that you can find? I wouldn't. Because here's something that I've learned after years of recruiting, okay? Not every move is a good move. Just because someone offers you another $20,000 doesn't automatically mean that it's the right decision. Think about it. If I offered you another $20,000 to do work that you absolutely hated for a manager you didn't respect on a contract that might not even be around next year, would that really be a better career move? Maybe. Maybe not. That's why I think people ask the wrong question, because instead of asking, should I leave? I think that you should be asking, what am I moving toward? Okay? There's a really big difference, okay? Let me give you an example here. Let's say that you are a systems engineer, that you've been supporting the same customer for the last 5 years, and a recruiter calls you and offers you another job. Same customer, same technology, same responsibilities, just another $15,000, okay? Would you take it? Honestly, probably not in this space, okay? Now, let's change one thing. What if that opportunity gives you experience with cloud technologies that you've been trying to break into? Or it puts you on a mission that's going to expose you to a completely different customer? Or it gives you your first opportunity to lead a small team? Now we're having a different conversation, because you're not just increasing your salary, you're increasing your value, and those aren't always the same thing. Here's something I want you to think about, okay? Every career move should improve something, okay? Maybe it's compensation, maybe it's technical depth, maybe it's leadership experience, maybe it's mission exposure, maybe it's work-life balance, maybe it's stability. I don't really care which one it is, okay? But I want you to be able to answer this question clearly. Why is this move better than where I am today? If your answer is because I'm frustrated, I'd pump the brakes a little bit, okay? If your answer is because my manager is driving me crazy, I'd slow down a bit. Those are 100% real feelings, don't get me wrong, but they're usually not good career strategies, okay? The strongest career moves I've seen were never emotional. They were always intentional. You know, someone had a destination, not just an escape plan, okay? And you know what's really interesting to me? Hiring managers can usually tell the difference, believe it or not. I think it's a countenance thing, okay? When I ask a candidate, why are you interested in making a move on our phone screens? I'm not trying to catch them in any way, shape, or form. I'm trying to understand how they make decisions. Are they running for something? Are they building towards something? Those are completely different mindsets. So before you accept the next offer that comes your way, can I challenge you to ask yourself 4 questions? What will I learn here that I can't learn where I am today? That's number 1. Second one is, will this make me more valuable 3 years from now? Thinking long term. Am I moving towards something or just away from something? And finally, if the salary were exactly the same, would I still want this job? I absolutely love that last question because it forces you to look past the paycheck. I know it's exciting. More money is better than less money. I say that all the time. It can increase our lifestyle and afford us a bigger opportunity right now, bigger possibilities, more options right now in this moment. Sometimes that's exactly where the right answer is hiding, in my opinion. So let's say that you've done the work. You've essentially looked at the market. If you've been following me, you know I've been talking a lot about this lately. You've thought about where you're headed. You've found an opportunity that checks all the boxes, right? Now something interesting happens. You get the offer, and all of a sudden, everything changes. Your current company wants to talk. Your manager asks if there's anything that they can do to keep you. Maybe they come back with more money. Maybe they promise a promotion. Maybe they tell you all the things that you've been hoping to hear for the last year. Let me ask you something. Why now? Think about that for a second. If you've been carrying more responsibility, if you've been performing at a high level, if you've been asking for more opportunities, what changed? Was it your value? Or was it the fact that you finally had another option? Now, I'm passionate about this, but please don't misunderstand me. I'm not telling you that every counter offer is bad. I've talked about this already. I've seen people stay. I've seen it work out, but I've also seen candidates make one mistake over and over and over again, okay? They let one really good day erase 6 months of frustration or a year or sometimes several years. The offer comes in, the current company responds, everybody's excited, emotions are high, and nobody stops to ask the most important question. Did the reason I wanted to leave actually change? Not the salary, the reason. Was it growth? Was it leadership, the work, the mission, work-life balance? What was it? Because if the answer is no, then all you've really done is make it more expensive for yourself to leave later. And you know what's interesting? The candidates that I've seen make the best long-term decisions almost never focus on one moment. They zoom out, okay? Instead of asking, what's the best offer? They ask, what's the best decision for the next 3 to 5 years of my career? And I know that that's hard when money's at play, but that's a completely different conversation, in my opinion. And honestly, it is one that I wish more people would have because career decisions made from emotion usually don't age very well. Career decisions made from clarity usually do. So before you accept a counter offer or before you decline one, can I leave you with 3 questions? What problem am I actually trying to solve? Has that problem changed? And finally, if no one offered me another dollar, which path would I still choose? I think if you answer those 3 questions honestly, you'll usually know what to do. So, after all these years of recruiting in the cleared space, people will sometimes ask me, Tony, so what's your rule? How long should I stay? How many jobs is too many? And honestly, I don't have a magic number. I know you hate that in between gray area of me just coming back every single time, but I really don't have a magic number. I've hired candidates who spend 10 years at one company, and I've also hired candidates who change companies every 3 years. I've passed on candidates in both groups because the number was never what I cared about. The story was. Can I explain what I mean? When I look at a resume, I'm asking myself one question. Does this career make sense? Can I follow the decisions? Can I see the progression? Can I understand why this person made each move? Because if I can, I'm probably not worried about how many companies that you've worked for. And this whole thing is true for the hiring managers making the hiring decisions as well. I'm thinking about how intentionally you've managed your career. Now, if I see 5 jobs in 5 years, I'm going to ask about it for sure, right? That's just my right. That's my screening process. That's what I do. That's my job. But asking isn't the same as judging, okay? I'm looking for context. Maybe the first program ended on a recompete. Maybe the second company was acquired. Maybe the third role wasn't represented during the interview. Those things happen, especially in the cleared world. What concerns me isn't movement. It's a pattern with no direction. If every answer sounds like, my manager was terrible, the company was awful, nobody appreciated me, eventually I'm going to wonder, what's the common denominator here, right? On the other hand, if someone says, I moved because I wanted cloud experience, then I moved because I wanted to lead a team, then I moved because I wanted to support a customer I've been trying to work for years, now I'm hearing a strategy. Those are 2 very different conversations, okay? Most of the time I hear, I'm just looking to see what's out there. I hope that changes your perspective. So here's the framework that I'd leave you with, okay? Every career move should answer one question. How does this make me more valuable? Maybe it gives you better technical skills. Maybe it gives you leadership experience, and maybe it exposes you to a new customer. Maybe it improves your quality of life. And maybe it pays more. There's nothing wrong with that either, okay? Don't get me wrong. But there should be a reason, not just an escape, because here's what I've learned. The professionals who build the best careers don't accidentally end up there. They make a series of thoughtful decisions over time. Some of those decisions involve staying, some involve leaving, and neither one is automatically right. And the right decision is the one that's moving your career forward, not just changing your address, okay? And if you can honestly answer that question every time that you make a move, I think that you're going to do just fine. So before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought here, okay? Job hopping isn't the goal. Staying forever isn't the goal either, okay? Building a career that you're proud of, that's the goal. Sometimes that means staying where you are and continuing to grow. Sometimes that means taking a chance on a new opportunity. The important thing is that you're making those decisions intentionally, not reactively, because every role that you take, every team that you join, every program that you support, it just becomes a part of your story, right? So make sure that it's a story that you would feel down the road proud to tell someone. So if this episode helped you, I would really appreciate it if you shared it with another clear professional. Chances are they're wrestling with the same questions about whether it's time to stay, whether it's time to go, or how to think about the next step in their career. And if we're not connected yet, I'd love to connect with you here on LinkedIn, where I share practical recruiting insights and answer questions from the cleared community throughout the week. Okay? Until next time, keep investing in your skills, keep building your reputation, and remember, don't chase the next job. Build the next chapter of your career. I'll see you on the next episode.